The United Kingdom is on the brink of another healthcare crisis as doctors are once again threatening to strike. This time it's not just over wages, but something potentially far more damaging, a proposed cut to the tax-free lump sum doctors receive from their pensions. The warning comes as Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor of the Exchequer, is reportedly considering slashing the 25% tax-free pension lump sum that doctors have relied upon for years. If this proposal goes ahead, unions warn that the NHS will face an exodus of its most senior doctors, pushing the healthcare system, already on life support, into complete meltdown. Doctors have made it clear that they will not take this sitting down. Two of the country's most powerful unions, including the British Medical Association, BMA, have already warned that such a drastic move would not only spark mass retirements, but could also trigger strike action on a scale that makes the previous industrial action seem minor. The BMA and other unions have accused Labour of clawing back money they had earlier spent on pay rises during the summer, calling it a betrayal of the healthcare workforce. The chair of the BMA Pensions Committee, Dr. Vishal Sharma, has voiced the frustrations of many in the medical profession. A move to cut the tax-free lump sum is not only unfair for those who have been planning for retirement based on existing tax rules, but it could also severely undermine ongoing efforts to reduce waiting lists. This ominous statement has sent shockwaves through the NHS, already struggling to cope with record waiting times and staff shortages. The timing could not be worse for the Labour government, which had made bold promises during the election campaign to overhaul the NHS. Labour pledged to cut waiting times with 40,000 additional appointments every week, a move that would make the health service fit for the future. But those plans now seem like a distant dream. NHS waiting lists have plateaued at a staggering 7.6 million, and the loss of experienced doctors would make any improvements impossible to achieve. At the heart of this crisis is the proposed cut to the tax-free pension lump sum. Currently, doctors, along with other savers, can take 25% of their pension pot, tax-free once they turn 55. This rule applies to amounts up to £268,275. However, Rachel Reeves is contemplating reducing this tax-free allowance to £100,000, a move estimated to generate an additional £2 billion for the Treasury. While this may seem like a win for government finances, the real-world consequences could be devastating for the NHS. Senior doctors, many of whom have already hit the £100,000 mark, are expected to retire early en masse to avoid being caught by the new tax rules. Unlike their younger counterparts, who are part of newer pension schemes with different rules, the more experienced doctors are bound by a 1995 pension scheme that forces them to take a lump sum at retirement. The BMA has warned that this group of senior medics is the most at risk of being penalised by Reeves's proposed cuts, and their loss could be catastrophic for the NHS. Dr. Sharma has made it clear that early retirements could spell disaster. The NHS is already struggling with long waiting lists, and the loss of our most experienced doctors will only make this worse. If Rachel Reeves proceeds with these changes, we could see thousands of doctors leaving the profession overnight. The anger among doctors is palpable, especially after a series of hard-fought pay deals earlier this year. Health Secretary Wes Streeting had managed to strike what was hailed as a landmark agreement with junior doctors back in July, ending 15 months of strike action, the longest in NHS history. Junior doctors across England had voted to accept an inflation-busting 22% pay rise, a move that was supposed to bring stability to the healthcare system. But now, with Reeves's pension plans on the table, it seems that all the progress made with the pay deal is at risk of being undone. Doctors are accusing the government of bad faith, claiming that the pension cuts represent an attempt to claw back the money they had promised to restore through pay raises. Many within the healthcare profession are warning that if the government continues down this path, the result will be widespread unrest, potentially leading to the most damaging industrial action the NHS has ever seen. This growing crisis comes at a critical time for the Labour Party, which has positioned itself as the party that can rescue the NHS from the brink of collapse. The health service has been Labour's flagship policy, with bold promises made during the general election campaign. Yet Reeves's pension cuts are now threatening to turn Labour's greatest strength into its Achilles heel. The party's commitment to fiscal responsibility is clashing head-on with the realities of running a functioning health service. If senior doctors retire in droves or go on strike, Labour's ability to fulfil its election promises will be seriously undermined. The stakes are high for Rachel Reeves. The £2 billion her proposal could bring into the Treasury would be a significant boost, particularly in the face of the country's mounting financial pressures. But at what cost? The NHS is already teetering under the weight of rising patient numbers and staff shortages. If doctors are forced to retire or strike, waiting lists will explode, emergency care will be compromised, and public trust in the NHS will plummet even further. Wes Streeting's victory over the junior doctors was supposed to be Labour's moment of triumph, but now that success risks becoming overshadowed by a new wave of unrest. The question now is whether Reeves and Labour will reconsider their plans or push ahead and risk the wrath of the medical profession. As Labour faces a healthcare crisis, the Conservative Party is also grappling with internal strife as it heads into the final leg of its leadership race. Robert Jenrick, one of the final two candidates vying for the top job, has added to the drama by claiming that he has Nigel Farage rattled. According to Jenrick, Farage is worried that the Conservatives, under his leadership, could win back the voters they lost to Reform UK, the party that Farage now leads. But not everyone is buying Jenrick's bravado. Gawain Towler, a former communications director for Reform UK, has dismissed Jenrick's claims as petty. He said on GB News, "Reform is not rattled. In fact, we've just gone up to 90,000 members." Towler didn't hold back, accusing Jenrick of being obsessed with Farage and saying the Tory MP was acting like a petulant child throwing his toys out of the pram. This leadership race has exposed deep divisions within the Conservative Party. Jenrick's opponent, Kemi Badenoch, has built her campaign around a tough stance on woke culture and immigration, positioning herself as the candidate to unite the right wing of the party. Yet, both candidates face an uphill battle in winning over the centrist Tory reform group, TRG, which has refused to back either of them. The group, which has long championed one nation conservatism, criticised both Jenrick and Badenoch for veering too far from the party's core values. In a surprising twist, Jacob Rees-Mogg has thrown his support behind Robert Jenrick, urging the party to unite around him as the best candidate to defeat Labour's Keir Starmer. However, Rees-Mogg also hinted at the possibility of bringing Nigel Farage into the Conservative fold, suggesting that if the party cannot win back Reform UK voters, they should instead steal Nigel Farage's clothes and adopt his policies to lure back right-wing voters. Despite the endorsement, Jenrick's path to victory is anything but certain. With the final vote approaching on November 2nd, both Jenrick and Badenoch are scrambling to win over Tory members, making their final pitches in a contest that has shaken the party to its core. As Britain faces a potential healthcare meltdown and political uncertainty looms, the coming weeks will be crucial. Rachel Reeves's pension proposals may determine the fate of the NHS, while the outcome of the Tory leadership race could shape the future of British politics for years to come.